Is your HOA always this fair? The tow sign snapped in the wind as paper slapped against my Trailhead truck, and Karen stood there measuring my bumper like the Trailhead belonged to her. She tried towing a county-permitted truck mine, then mocked the permit like rules were optional, loud enough to punch a hole straight through my morning. But the moment my attorney dropped the permit file on the table paper stamp cracking under the porch light glare, every face in that clubhouse shifted. Next week, their financial ledger wasn't just questioned. It was seized, and the HOA that pushed me went suddenly beautifully quiet. I eased my Trailhead truck into the gravel pull-in at Dry Creek Trailhead just after 9. The morning was all low cloud and pine sap, the kind of cold, sharp air that wakes you up better than coffee. I shut off the engine, grabbed the laminated trail access permit from the dash, and was halfway out of the cab when I heard the chirp. Beep! The dash cam blinked green and started recording. That's when I noticed her. Karen stood under a brand new HOA tow-away sign clipboard in hand, posture razor straight, like she'd been waiting for the moment I rolled in. She scribbled something, then looked up with that tight half-smile she used on people she considered non-compliant. "Your Trailhead truck is subject to tow," she said, voice flat. "HOA jurisdiction." I raised the permit so the camera and Karen could see it clearly. "County jurisdiction," I corrected. "Issued 2016. Redwood Parks hasn't revoked a thing." She stepped closer, heels crunching over the gravel. "The board voted last night to extend Meadow Ridge enforcement to this approach. Vehicles parked here must meet community standards." I exhaled once through my nose. "I don't live in Meadow Ridge. That doesn't exempt you when you impact homeowners," she replied, pointing at my front tire like it was leaking radiation. Oversized commercial truck, muddy wheels, visual blight. Behind us, the bulletin board rattled softly in the wind. Ranger Mike stood 50 yards away near his utility ATV, arms crossed quietly watching. He knew this trailhead better than anyone. He also knew the HOA had zero claim to any of it. "Karen," I said, trying to keep my voice low, "this is county property. I've been staging work crews here for 9 years. Same truck, same permit, same ranger sign-off." She lifted her phone, angling it just right so my truck filled the background. "And we've had resident complaints for almost as long," she said. "So today, we're finally addressing it." I felt my shoulders stiffen. "By doing what exactly?" Her thumb hovered over the screen like she was prepping a missile launch. "By submitting a tow request," she said, "officially." I clicked on my body cam, the red LED glowing. "For the record," I said, "I'm standing on Redwood County land with a valid access permit." "You can recite whatever you want," she said. "Our contractor recognizes HOA instructions, not your interpretation of jurisdiction." I resisted the urge to laugh. Interpretation. "The county tax parcels are public record. You're welcome to file a dispute," she replied coolly, "after your truck is removed." That one landed harder than I expected, sharp enough to sting. I didn't move. Neither did she. The tension settled between us like another layer of fog. Wind tugged at her clipboard. Pine needles slid across the hood of my truck. Somewhere down the trail, a bird let out a single annoyed chirp. "You really think this is how it works?" I asked. "You show up with a sign and suddenly the county loses ownership." She didn't blink. "I think you underestimate how seriously the HOA takes standards." I tried a different angle. What exactly did homeowners complain about noise tools? "My truck sitting here before sunrise." "The presence," she said simply. "It makes people feel this area is unmanaged." This area is my job, I thought, but I didn't say it. She lifted her phone again and tapped the center of the screen with a short, sharp motion. "Tow, request, submit." A tiny spinning icon appeared. Her lips pressed into a small, triumphant line. And just like that, we hit our mini-cliff. I stepped closer, reading over her shoulder. The vendor app displayed a status bar. Then the screen flashed, "Request submitted." She turned the phone so I could see it fully. "Done," she said. "Our contractor should arrive shortly." I looked straight at the dash cam. "This is an active dispute," I narrated. "HOA president attempting to tow a county-permitted trailhead truck." She crossed her arms. A permit that doesn't apply anymore. I raised an eyebrow. Says who? Says the board, she answered, and the board outranks whatever old paperwork you've been waving around. You're overstepping, I said quietly. You're obstructing community standards, she shot back. Two very different things. My jaw tightened. I'd dealt with bureaucracy before decades of logistics work taught me how petty rules turned into power trips. But there was something about Karen's certainty that felt dangerous. I checked the permit again, the prop still perfectly intact under the plastic sleeve. Fine, I said. We'll wait for your contractor. And the county. Karen gave a short, satisfied nod like she'd won something. Then, grrr. The low growl of a diesel engine echoed from the two-lane road. It got louder, closer. A silhouette appeared between the trees. A tow truck reversing slowly into the trailhead. And Karen smiled. Dry Creek Diner always smelled the same burnt coffee old vinyl and the faint sweetness of maple syrup that never quite left the walls. I'd barely stepped through the door when I saw the red-stamped envelope on the counter with my name clipped to it. Filed notice. Subject to tow Trailhead truck. The label was loud enough to feel like it shouted. Morning Jack called Betty from behind the register. She pushed the envelope toward me like it might burn her fingertips. Guy in a Meadow Ridge windbreaker dropped it off 10 minutes ago. I sat at my usual booth, third from the window, the one facing the flagpole outside. The metal rope clacked against it in the wind, steady and hollow. I slid a thumb under the envelope flap and unfolded the notice. Ralph slid into the opposite seat before I had time to process it. Old Ranger, 70s, thick mustache, faded green jacket that still carried the smell of cedar oil. He nodded once at the paper. Let me guess, HOA, fuss. Tow order, I said, handing it over. He pulled out his reading glasses, muttered something, and held the notice up to the window light. Wrong statute, he grunted. And this parcel line way off. They're quoting coverage that stops 300 feet before the trailhead. I let out a long breath. Karen submitted the tow request this morning. I saw her sign, Ralph said. Looked like it cost more than the gravel lot it's sitting on. I cracked open my binder, the 2016 Redwood County Trail Access Permit, the easement map, and photos from my body cam. The documents fanned across the table like we were prepping evidence for a hearing. Ralph tapped the permit with a knuckle. This is the only thing that matters. County issued. County maintained. HOA don't own a square inch of that dirt. Behind him, the diner's bulletin board rattled as someone opened the door. Ranger, Mike, walked in, shook the dust off his boots, and gave me a nod that said he'd already heard. Morning, he said, sliding into the booth beside Ralph. You see the sign Karen put up? I saw more than that, I said, showing him the notice. She got a tow contractor involved. Mike whistled softly. That's a mess. Mess is her specialty, Ralph muttered. Before I could respond, the diner door swung open again. This time, Karen stepped inside. Sunglasses still on even though the room was dim. She spotted our booth instantly. She didn't walk over. She didn't need to. A single glance, sharp dismissive, was enough to say, "The tow order's already in motion." Ralph noticed it too. "You got a shadow," he said under his breath. "She thinks the HOA outranks the county," I replied. He snorted. "HOAs think a lot of things." I picked up the notice again, scanning for anything I'd missed, and that's when I saw it. A new line near the bottom in smaller print. Tow escalation pending. Subject to board review. Minnie Cliff landed hard. I leaned back. They're escalating. Ralph's eyebrows lifted over his glasses. That right there isn't HOA noise anymore. That's intent. Mike shook his head. They can't override county permits. They can't, Ralph agreed. But they can hassle you until you fold. I'm not folding, I said. Didn't say you would. He folded the notice carefully and tapped it on the table. But you'll need more than this binder to shut them down. I waited for him to explain. You're going to need an attorney, Ralph said. This is bigger than signage. A plate clattered somewhere behind the counter. The radio switched to baseball commentary. But it felt like the diner went quiet for half a breath. I wasn't new to conflict. I'd spent 25 years in logistics management arguing with vendors fighting for compliance, pushing paperwork through walls of red tape. But HOA politics were something different. Pettier, slipperier. Karen passed the booth on her way out, pausing just long enough to offer a thin smile. "You might want to move that truck," she said, "before the board makes the decision for you." Ranger Mike spoke up. "Trailhead isn't HOA land." Karen didn't even look at him. "We'll see." The door shut behind her with a soft thump. I exhaled and reached for my phone. "I'll document this." "Good," Ralph said. "Take a picture of the notice for your record." I snapped a photo, making sure the timestamp was clear. Ralph leaned forward, voice low. "Call Miller," he said. "Don't wait." And just like that, the cliff hit quiet, firm, inevitable. The boom arm dropped behind my Trailhead truck with a metallic sigh, then swung in until the padded hook kissed the rear axle. "Whoa, hey," I called, stepping off the gravel onto the damp shoulder. "You're a little early for the funeral." The driver didn't laugh. Stocky guy, late 30s, reflective vest ball cap with the tow company logo. He kept his eyes on the controls winch, whining softly as he snugged the chain. "Morning," he said, not quite looking at me. "Order placed by Meadow Ridge HOA. I'm just doing what's on the ticket." Fog clung low along the drainage ditch, turning the whole trailhead into a gray bowl. The camera pole at the edge of the lot blinked a slow red recording everything. Off to the side, I spotted Karen, a good 30 feet back, phone held vertically, lips moving just enough to tell me she was live streaming. I tapped my body cam. It chirped and lit up. "Recording for Redwood County," I said mostly so the mic had it on file. The driver hesitated. "You disputing the tow, sir?" "Yes," I replied. "And I'm disputing who thinks they're in charge." He finally met my eyes. There was no hostility there, just the tired look of a man who'd been yelled at beside too many hoods. "My order says HOA right-of-way," he said. "Lots listed as subject to enforcement under their contract. I don't argue with paperwork. That's my specialty," I answered. I walked around to the front of the truck and lifted the laminated placard from the dash. "County permitted Trailhead. Truck 2016. Issued by Redwood Parks. Not HOA." Karen's voice cut across the lot. "That permit is expired by policy." "It's not your policy," I shot back. She raised her phone higher. "This is what non-compliance looks like, folks. He's been warned multiple times." The driver shifted his weight. "Look, sir, if you've got a problem, you can take it up with their board or with my dispatcher. But the app says hook and move. If I leave it, I don't get paid." I pulled my phone out of my pocket. "Then let's get someone on the line who actually owns this dirt." "Make it quick," he said. "I got a schedule." I scrolled to the number Ralph had written on the inside cover of my binder, Redwood County Clerk, Permits and Access. My thumb hovered for half a second, then I hit call and put it on speaker. The ring sounded thin in the cold air. Karen edged closer, staying just outside of arm's reach, pointing her camera at me like I was an exhibit. "Redwood County Clerk's Office." A woman answered. "This is Dana." "Dana, my name is Jack Nolan," I said. "I'm standing at Dry Creek Trailhead with a tow truck about to move a county-permitted trailhead truck off what I understand is county land." There was a pause, then a change in her tone, professional but sharper. "Who ordered the tow?" "Sir Meadow Ridge HOA," I said. "They're claiming jurisdiction over the trailhead. There's a new tow sign up with their name on it." "That's not possible," she replied. "The trailhead parcel is county-owned and maintained. HOA has no authority over the trailhead." The driver shifted his boots. "Ma'am, this is the tow operator. My ticket came through our HOA portal. It lists this area as an HOA-managed right-of-way." Sir Dana said, voice cutting through the static, "What you're describing doesn't match our records. I have Dry Creek listed as public recreational access. No HOA overlay, no easement granted." Karen raised her voice so the phone could hear her. "We have homeowner complaints. The board voted to treat this approach as community access under our covenants." Dana didn't even acknowledge her. "Mr. Nolan, do you have your permit visible?" I held it up in front of the phone and the dash cam at the same time, tilting it so the morning light hit the embossed seal. Yes, ma'am. 2016. Trail Access Permit. Redwood County Parks. I see it in the system, she said. Valid and active. No revocation. No outstanding violations. The driver looked at me again. So, what do you want me to do here? I want you not to tow my truck, I said. Driver Dana said firm. Now, this is the Redwood County Clerk. You are on county property at a county trailhead. You are attempting to tow a county-permitted vehicle on the basis of an unauthorized order. For your own liability, I strongly advise you to disengage immediately. The winch motor went quiet. The driver let go of the controls hands hovering over the levers like they'd turned hot. My dispatch is gonna love this, he muttered. Then louder. Ma'am, can you send something in writing? An email. I need something to show my boss. I'll email your dispatcher directly, Dana said. Mr. Nolan, please text me a photo of the tow sign and your permit after we hang up. Will do. Karen stepped forward, voice climbing. You can't just pull out. We have an agreement. The board approved enforcement. The driver looked from her to me, then to the blinking camera on the pole. He reached down and flipped the lever. The chain slackened and the padded hook dropped away from my axle. I'm not touching it, he said, stepping back. Not with the county clerk on speaker. Karen's composure fractured for just a second. Her live stream wobbled. Don't stop tow it now, she snapped. This is a clear violation. No, ma'am, the driver said. This is above my pay grade. He walked back to his cab, shaking his head, and climbed in. The tow truck idled a moment, then slowly rolled forward, turning back toward the road. Karen stood there breathing hard, the tow sign at her shoulder like a useless backup singer. This isn't over, she said. She marched to the front of my truck, yanked a folded sheet from her clipboard, and slapped it against the inside of my windshield right over the permit sleeve. Red ink screamed across the top, Level 2 Tow Escalation Notice. The paper crinkled under her palm. My prop, the county permit that had stayed clean for nearly a decade, was now half hidden behind an HOA threat. She stepped back, satisfied. You're on record, she said. Next time, there won't be a call to the county first. She stalked off toward her SUV, still streaming. I took a photo of the windshield zoomed in on the layered documents, then another of the tow sign with the camera pole blinking red behind it. By the time I slid into the driver's seat, my phone buzzed with a new email. From permits@redwoodcounty.gov. Subject, HOA, filed complaint against Dry Creek Trail. Access permit. Trailhead truck. I stared at the subject line and felt the ground under this whole thing shift. They hadn't just tried to tow my truck. Now they were going after the permit itself. The certified letter sat alone on my kitchen table, heavier than it should have been. Green Bar Express, certified mail, stamped across the top, Meadow. Ridge HOA return address in neat blue ink. I turned it over once then, twice, listening to the faint crackle of thick paper. When I finally tore it open, the header hit like a slap. HOA violation, your trailhead, truck permit, invalid. I read it again, slower. According to the letter, my county-issued trail permit was improperly granted and in conflict with community covenants. It ordered me to cease staging commercial equipment at Dry Creek Trailhead and warned of further enforcement actions including tow and lien. Lien. They'd jumped from tow trucks to liens. By the time I sat in the plastic chair across from Attorney Miller, the letter looked worn from being refolded. His office felt like a different planet. Cold white lights, humming scanner on the credenza file boxes stacked in careful rows. A framed print of the county courthouse hung crooked on the wall behind him. He offered a hand-firm grip. Jack Nolan. Yeah, I said. Sorry, I'm bringing a mess. I get paid for mess, he replied. Let's see the letter. I passed it over. He read in silence, lips pressed in a thin line. The scanner behind him clicked and whined as it fed some other poor soul's problems into digital storage. These violations don't hold up, Miller said finally. At least, not the way they're written. That's the second time today I've heard something doesn't hold up, I said. First time was the tow truck hook dropping off my axle. He looked up at that. You have that recorded body cam, dash cam, and a county clerk on speaker. Good, he said. Courts like recordings. I pulled my binder onto his desk, 2016 permit maps, photos of the tow sign, the level 2 notice layered over the permit. My Trailhead truck looked fine in every shot. It was the paper taped to it that made my teeth grind. Miller flipped through everything, fingers moving with the speed of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. You've got your ducks in a row, he murmured. Most folks show up with a story and a napkin. I did 25 years in logistics, I said. If it wasn't written down, it didn't exist. That'll help. He pulled the certified letter closer, scanning the second page. They're claiming your permit conflicts with existing community guidelines. That's nonsense on public land. But the interesting part is here. He tapped the bottom paragraph. Costs associated with enforcement and signage may be recovered through the Community Enhancement Fund, he read. That's a budget line. So I asked. So he said, leaning back, if the HOA's touching finances over this, we might not just argue permits. We might seize their docket. I blinked. Their what? Their financial records, he clarified. The ledger, disbursements, invoices, everything tied to this so-called Community Enhancement Fund. If they're spending homeowners' money to bully the county, that's a different fight altogether. I thought of Karen under the tow sign live streaming like it was a crusade. Where do we start? I asked. Right here. Miller clicked a pen and drew a short line across a legal pad. I need every artifact they've put in front of you. Notices, newsletters, meeting minutes, anything mentioning parking trail use or enhancement projects. I nodded. I've got newsletters in a drawer and some old email blasts saved. Good. They're hiding transactions, he said. They always are. These letters. They're the show. The money is backstage. The scanner beeped. He slid the certified letter into it, watched the light bar crawl slowly down the page. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked the screen. Voicemail. Karen Salters. I put it on speaker. Her voice filled the office, clipped and rehearsed. Mr. Nolan, this is President Salters from Meadow Ridge. I trust you've received our violation notice. Just so we're clear, your truck won't stay there long. Our vendor has been instructed to proceed as needed. Ignoring this letter won't make the problem go away. The message ended with a sharp click. Miller smiled without humor. She left that on your voicemail 10 minutes before I drove over here. That's helpful, he said. We'll keep it. He turned back to his computer, pulling up a template. I'm drafting a request for documents. We'll start soft a demand for the bylaws they claim to be enforcing and any board minutes where your Trailhead truck was discussed. While we're at it, I want their last 3 budget reports and anything labeled Community Enhancement. The printer in the corner came to life, spitting out pages. I watched ink become sentences that sounded like another language pursuant to produce within 10 business days under penalty of perjury. This feels like overkill for a truck, I said. It isn't about your truck, Miller said, echoing Ralph's words with colder precision. It's about someone discovering they can reach farther than they're allowed and not being told no. He grabbed one of the printed pages and scanned it, pen hovering. We'll look for patterns, he continued. If these numbers check out and they've been running HOA funds through this enhancement shell, we can target their financial docket. Judges care when people play fast and loose with other folks' money. Something in my chest loosened just enough to let air in. So the truck isn't the only leverage anymore, I said. Exactly, he replied. They wanted to make it about power. We'll make it about paper. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email notification. I glanced down, expecting another automated notice. Instead, the subject line stopped me cold. I'm the assistant treasurer. Karen's hiding invoices. I can prove it. The sender field was just a first initial and a last name I didn't recognize. The message preview showed one more line. Please don't tell her I wrote you. The email came in just after dark, the garage light turning everything the color of old paper. From treasurer.help@Proton Mail subject. She's using HOA money. Please look at this. My thumb hovered over the screen longer than it should have. Then I opened it. There were 3 attachments. The first was a scanned invoice from a resort 2 towns over wellness weekend package for figures listed under Community Enhancement Fund. The second showed landscaping charges with Karen's address typed clearly at the top, seasonal color change stone edging irrigation check. The third was a spreadsheet cells highlighted in yellow. The message itself was short. I'm the assistant treasurer. Karen is hiding invoices in the enhancement line. These are not community projects. Please don't tell her I wrote you. I stared at the screen, listening to the soft tick of the cooling engine behind me. The concrete floor smelled like oil and dust. My binder sat open on the workbench, pages fanned out under the yellow garage light permit photos, notices the level 2 escalation taped over my windshield. Okay, I muttered. Now we're in it. I forwarded the email to Miller, added nothing but, "Call me." Now. He called before the little whoosh animation finished. "You're quick," he said. "You're going to want to see this," I replied. I hit speaker, propped the phone against a can of WD-40, and opened the invoices on my laptop where he could hear the keys clacking as I scrolled. First one, I said. Spa Resort. Paid from Community Enhancement. Description says, Board Wellness Retreat. He grunted. That's creative. Second one, I continued. Landscaping. Karen's home address. Same fund. That's not even creative, he said. That's just greedy. I emailed the files over. A second later, I heard his computer ping on the other end. Got them, he said. Give me a second. The line went quiet except for the distant hum of his office HVAC on his end and the faint whir of my old inkjet on mine as it woke up. I hit print, and the invoices started sliding out one by one, glossy and incriminating. Okay, Miller said, voice back. This is exactly what we hoped wasn't true and exactly what we needed if it was. You think it's real? I asked. Look at the metadata, he said. Dates line up with the budget period. Vendor names check out, and the treasurer's signature. Same scrawl I saw on your violation letter. So she's using HOA money to pay for spa weekends and a prettier yard, I said. Then, telling me my truck is the problem. Your truck is the excuse, he said. These invoices are the story. My printer spit another page. I clipped the stack together and slid them into a fresh plastic sleeve, then added it to the binder. So, what now? I asked. Now, he said, we stop asking nicely. He started typing. I could picture him under those cold office lights, sleeves rolled, jaw set. I'm drafting a demand for disclosure, he went on. They get 72 hours to produce bylaws, minutes, and full ledger entries for any charge tied to this fund. You think they'll cough it up? I asked. He laughed once. No, that's the point. If they stonewall, we seize. And if they don't, then we get a clean look at their numbers, he said. Either way, they're stepping into a room with a judge whether they want to or not. My phone buzzed with a new notification. This time it was from the Meadow Ridge Community app, a feed I only read when I needed my blood pressure tested. Karen had posted. Urgent HOA update. Fraudulent invoices circulating. I opened it, jaw tightening. It appears a resident has fabricated invoices in a malicious attempt to sabotage your HOA and its leadership. These fake documents misrepresent standard board wellness and neighborhood projects. We are investigating the source of this forgery and will pursue legal action. Attached to the post were blurred thumbnails of the same invoices I'd just printed. She's calling them fake, I said. You recording that, Miller asked. Yeah, I said already, hitting the screen record shortcut. The little red bar appeared at the top of my phone. I scrolled slowly, capturing every line, every word. Got it. Good, he said. That's not just spin. That's her putting a story on the record. Judges love comparing stories to numbers. Another notification popped up before the recording finished. This one from the HOA's official email. Final notice, tow escalation level 3, Trailhead, truck. I opened it and read aloud. Due to continued non-compliance and refusal to recognize community standards, the board has authorized level 3 tow escalation, I said. This may include towing without additional warning and recovery of costs through lien or legal action. He exhaled through his teeth. They really don't know when to stop. She doesn't, I corrected. Same difference, he said. Print that. I did. The inkjet wheezed and spat out another sheet. I slid it into the binder next to the Level 2 notice. They're putting all of this in writing, Miller said. That's a gift. It doesn't feel like one, I answered. That's because you're standing in front of the truck, he said. I'm looking at the docket. What docket, I asked. The one I'm about to put in front of a judge, he said. I'm drafting a petition now, petition to compel and motion to seize the HOA financial docket. The phrase hung there in the air, heavy and sharp. Seize, I repeated. They chose to make this about money when they started billing enforcement and wellness out of the same bucket, he said. We're just taking their choice seriously. The garage felt smaller suddenly. The tools on the pegboard, the rolled maps, the Trailhead truck just outside dark and solid under the porch light. I picked up the fresh-printed final notice again. The words, TOW Level 3, sat in bold centered like a threat and a dare in one. They're going all in, I said quietly. Miller didn't hesitate. Good, he replied. So are we. The HOA clubhouse buzzed louder than I'd ever heard it. Folding chairs scraped across the laminate floor, neighbors squeezed into rows, and somebody wrestled with the stubborn power strip under the projector cart. At 7:03 p.m., the projector snapped on with a sharp pop, throwing a flood of pale blue light across the wall. Voices dropped to murmurs. The room smelled like old carpet and cold coffee. Karen stood at the front in a navy blazer posture, tight hair pinned into a no-nonsense twist. Behind her, a banner read, Meadow Ridge Community Meeting Special Session. On the podium, a small label caught my eye. County Recording, Do Not Remove. I tightened my grip on the binder under my arm. Someone had made sure tonight had a record. Karen tapped the laptop. A slide blinked onto the wall. Unauthorized Trailhead Truck Community Impact. She cleared her throat dramatically. Thank you all for coming on short notice. As many of you know, we've had repeated issues with a non-compliant commercial vehicle obstructing community access near Dry Creek Trailhead. A few residents murmured. One man in a camo jacket folded his arms. Another leaned forward like he wasn't sure he'd heard correctly. Karen pointed her laser at a photo of my truck. This vehicle has ignored multiple notices. It has been warned, cited, and escalated under our enforcement protocol. I took a seat in the second row. Miller slid into the chair beside me, placing a folder on his knee. He gave me a small nod, steady, quiet, ready. Karen clicked again. The next slide showed a tow sign, hers glinting in the sun. We are obligated to protect homeowner interests. When residents complain, the board acts. That's how stable communities function. Someone in the back snorted. A couple of heads turned. I stood. Before we get deeper into the fiction, I said I'd like the room to hear an inconvenient fact. Karen stiffened. You're not recognized to speak. I'm recognized by the county, I said, lifting my phone. And that's who owns the land you're trying to control. I tapped play. The clerk's voice filled the room clear even through the clubhouse acoustics. The Trailhead parcel is county-owned and maintained. HOA has no jurisdiction authority or enforcement rights over that property. None. The silence that followed wasn't quiet, it was sharp. A woman in the third row raised her hand. Karen, is that true? Karen's smile twitched. We're evaluating legal boundaries. Legal boundaries, a man interrupted. Then, why'd my dues go up last quarter? Another resident chimed in. What's this enhancement fund you're spending from my streetlights haven't been fixed in 6 months? Karen's jaw clenched. Community improvements take time. Spa weekends aren't community improvements, someone said. She froze. Only for half a breath, but long enough. From the podium, her mic was still on. She leaned toward the board treasurer and whispered barely a whisper at all through the speakers. If they see the real ledger, we're finished. The room erupted. What ledger? Finished with what? Show us the books you're spending our money on. What exactly? Karen shot a glare at the sound operator, slicing her hand across her throat to get the mic muted. The speakers went dead with a soft pop, but the damage was done. I stepped forward and set a crisp envelope on the folding table at the front. The demand for disclosure. Karen stared at it like it was radioactive. This, I said, is a formal request drafted by council requiring the HOA to produce bylaws, minutes, and full ledger entries involving the Community Enhancement Fund. You have 72 hours to comply. A woman near the front row clapped once. Another followed. Murmurs turned into nods. The board members shifted uneasily. One adjusted his tie. Another closed her binder like she suddenly wanted to hide it. Karen swallowed hard. This meeting is adjourned. No, Miller said, rising from his seat, voice calm and lethal. This meeting is now accountable. Heads turned. Phones lifted. Even the projector hum felt louder. We file our motion in the morning, he said, stepping to my side, to compel production of records and seize the HOA's financial docket. Karen's face drained a shade, then another, and the whole clubhouse knew her story was slipping out of her hands. The Redwood County Courthouse rose ahead of me in the cool morning light, its stone columns catching the first gold of the day. I tightened my grip on the folder in my hand. Inside, protected by a clean plastic sleeve, was the thing Karen had tried hardest to bury, my Trailhead truck permit. Restored. Intact. Prop number 3 whole again. Ready. Miller asked, stepping up beside me with his briefcase. As I'll ever be, I said. Inside, the courthouse smelled faintly of lemon polish and paper like rules had a scent. We walked toward courtroom 2A. Through the cracked door, I spotted the bailiff loading a small steel cart with 3 cardboard boxes stamped in red Meadow Ridge HOA financial docket. A quiet promise of what might happen next. When we stepped inside, residents lined the back benches, whispering. Karen sat at the counsel table with her attorney's spine, stiff fingers locked together like she was holding herself in place. She didn't look at me. Judge Rowan entered, robe-flowing expression unreadable. The room stood then settled. This is Meadow Ridge HOA versus Nolan, she announced. Motion to compel and motion to seize financial records. Her gaze moved to the HOA counsel. Where is the HOA financial docket? The attorney cleared his throat, voice barely above a whisper. Your Honor, the board is still organizing certain... No, Judge. Rowan interrupted. That's not the question. The question is, where is it? His silence answered for him. Miller rose smoothly. Your Honor, we have submitted invoices, violation notices, and board minutes showing expenditures billed from the Community Enhancement Fund for personal use. These charges were used in tandem with unauthorized enforcement actions against my client's county-permitted Trailhead truck. He tapped the binder. I handed it to him, and he placed it on the evidence table with a patient firmness. Judge Rowan opened the first envelope inside. Her eyes tracked the lines slowly, the clock on the far wall ticking like it was counting breaths. When she reached the spa invoice, she stopped. This is listed as a community improvement, she asked. The HOA counsel swallowed. It was a board wellness answer, carefully, she warned. His words died in his throat. Miller approached again. Additionally, Your Honor. The HOA issued 3 escalating tow attempts against a vehicle parked on county property. Here are the notices. Here is the county clerk's recording confirming they had no jurisdiction. And here, he turned and I stood, are the photos and time-stamped videos. I handed over the folder with the printed screenshots, Karen live streaming, the tow hook on my axle, the Level 2 and Level 3 notices plastered across my permit. Karen shot to her feet. Those are forged. He's manufacturing. No, Miller said, holding up a printed screenshot. Metadata confirms upload time, file origin, and geotag from the Trailhead camera pole. Every file came from official county timestamp systems. Karen's mouth opened again, then closed. Judge Rowan reviewed the pages, flipping back and forth between the invoices and the photos. The tension in the room felt like a held breath waiting to snap. Finally, she set everything down. Mr. Miller, she said, approach. He did. She lifted the spa invoice again. This is unacceptable. Then she looked directly at the HOA counsel. Your client has misused funds, misrepresented jurisdiction, and issued fraudulent notices against a county permit. The court will not tolerate this. She turned to Miller. The motion is granted. The room shifted, every resident leaning forward at once. Counselor Miller, the judge, continued, "You are authorized to seize the HOA financial docket immediately and transfer all materials into the custody of Redwood County Records. Bailiff assist." The bailiff stepped out, returning with the steel cart of cardboard docket boxes, wheels squeaking across the courtroom floor. Karen whispered something sharp to her attorney. He didn't look at her, not once. Miller nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Your Honor," and Mr. Nolan, the judge, said, glancing at me, "Your permit stands. Fully restored." I exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that had waited weeks to escape. Prop number 3 wasn't just intact, it was vindicated. As the bailiff rolled the docket boxes toward the side door, the HOA counsel stood there frozen, watching the heart of their records disappear into county custody. He whispered, almost to himself, "This changes everything." And he was right. The sun hadn't fully cleared the ridge when I rolled into Dry Creek Trailhead, but the light was bright enough to catch the thing that stopped me cold. Where the old Towaway sign once stood crooked, sun-faded, and threatening, there was now a brand-new metal plate bolted into fresh concrete like it was meant to last 30 years. Public access. Redwood County. Parks. No HOA logo, no warnings, no fine print, just the county seal gleaming like it had something to prove. I climbed out of the truck and let the fresh morning air hit me. Pine needles glistened with dew, and the wind pushed through the treetops in slow waves, steady. Calm, the opposite of everything the last few weeks had been. Ranger Mike stood by the kiosk shoulder, propped against a post, steam curling from his travel mug. He watched me walk up with that half grin he used when the universe finally behaved. "Morning," he said. "County signs don't get towed." I let the words settle. Feels good to hear that out loud. "It's been a while since this place looked like a trailhead instead of a turf war," he said. "Nice change." He wasn't wrong. The gravel lay smooth where the tow truck had once scraped its tires. The bulletin board had been cleared of the flyers Karen used to tack up pages about community violations, parking standards, and preserving neighborhood aesthetic. All gone. Replaced with a laminated map of the county trail network and a bright green notice welcoming hikers. My phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another leftover reminder from the HOA portal, but the subject line stopped me. HOA compliance order, annual financial transparency report mandated, effective immediately. I read it twice, then handed the phone to Ranger Mike. "County issued it this morning," he said after skimming it. "Guess Judge Rowan's ruling traveled fast. When docket boxes roll through a courthouse," I said, "people tend to notice." He handed the phone back. "You heading up the trail today?" "Eventually," I said. "First, I've got something to put back where it belongs." I reached into the cab and slid out the new permit, the reissued Trailhead Access Permit, embossed seal bright under the sun. 10 years old in truth, but brand new in spirit. Clean. Untouched. No Level 2 notice plastered over it anymore. No HOA stamps, no red ink. I pressed it into the dash holder with slow, deliberate care, the way you'd put something right after someone tried very hard to break it. A familiar voice came up the path, boots crunching on the gravel. "Well, I'll be damned," Ralph said, stopping beside me with a long look at the new county sign. "Guess someone finally fought back." He said it like he'd been waiting years to say it. I laughed. "Feels like the fight had me on the mat a few times." "Yeah," he said, patting my shoulder once, "but you didn't stay there." A couple of Dry Creek residents, people I'd seen on the trail for years, wandered by carrying day packs and trekking poles. They paused long enough to nod at the new sign, then at me. "Good to see things straightened out," one of them said. "About time," another added. Nobody mentioned Karen. Nobody had to. Another buzz from my phone. A text this time. Short, careful. "Audit begins Monday. Thank you. A.T., the assistant treasurer." I didn't know their name, but I knew the courage it took to hit send. I tucked the phone away, then walked a few steps to the trailhead edge where the trees opened like a doorway. For the first time in weeks, the view wasn't ruined by anger or worry. The path curved gently through the pines, the air smelled clean, and my truck sat behind me like it had finally found its rightful place again. "They tried towing my trailhead truck," I said quietly, "and ended up losing their docket." Ralph chuckled. Funny how paper cuts deepest when it's in the right hands. I turned back toward the truck, running a hand along the warm metal. My permit glowed through the windshield. The county sign stood firm behind it, and the whole scene, clean, simple, honest, felt like the final page of a chapter I hadn't asked to write, but was damn glad to finish. I opened the driver's door, paused with one foot inside, and took one last look at the trail, the sign, the morning settling into something ordinary again. Then I said the line I'd earned the hard way, quiet enough for me, strong enough for anyone who needed it. Finally, someone fought back the right way. The door closed with a solid click, and for the first time since all of this began, the trailhead felt like home again. The morning after the ruling, I stood by my trailhead truck as the county's posted order caught the sun, and my restored trailhead truck permit glowed clean behind the glass. The weight of the hearing still echoed, but the quiet around the trail felt earned, like the county seal itself had finally drawn the line everyone else avoided. I realized this fight was never about a sign or a parking spot. It was about proving that due process still works when a community refuses to be pressed into silence. Justice isn't loud, it's steady. Finally, someone fought back. Share your HOA story. Below your map might help someone redraw theirs.